Imagine a great monument to scholars and connoisseurs of the schools of magic. A flourishing city of hopeful young mages and tourists alike. Imagine the wondrous amounts of knowledge to be gained and discovered here. And imagine it was all suddenly swept away. What was once great has now fallen. What was flourishing simply faded away, and a previously glorious city lay half buried beneath the snow, cold and forgotten. Such is the fate of Winterhold. A city located in the farthest reaches of Skyrim's livable boundaries, in the hold which bears its name. A seemingly miserable little town, Winterhold is appropriately titled, as there is a steady snowfall that has been cast upon the northern city. It is surrounded by barren lands of untrodden snow, and beyond its borders lay miles of treacherous ice fields. Even the shops and buildings themselves are in a pathetic state, as only a few still stand and less are profitable. Frozen Hearth is the only remaining inn here in Winterhold, and Dagur, the owner, has a rather substantial disliking of mages. Birna, the owner of Birna's Oddments in Winterhold, also voices her distaste for those who practice magic, and Kraldar, one of the only simple residents in the city, shares these opinions. So are you guys noticing a pattern here? You see, virtually all of the inhabitants of Winterhold hold a great distrust for mages and magic, yet their livelihood actually depends on them, as the College of Winterhold serves as the only attraction to the city. Their businesses and daily lives suffer greatly, and the town itself is in shambles. With all the ruin and poverty here, it's really hard to believe that a city like Winterhold once rivaled Solitude in terms of prosperity, but what caused all of this decimation? An event known throughout Tamriel as the Great Collapse in the Fourth Era shattered Winterhold physically and broke down their mental defenses. A series of harsh winter storms blew through the city unforgivingly and enveloped a large portion of the buildings in the sea of ghosts. Naturally, the surviving citizens of the disaster looked to the mages when it came time to appease blame. They believed that since the college itself remained intact aside from minor deterioration of the bridge, the mages had been responsible for the traumatic storms. The mages insist that the college is protected by magical properties which are not attainable for the rest of Winterhold. Obviously, this caused many people to harbor feelings of disdain to the mages in Winterhold. The mages themselves, however, have another theory. They stand firm in their belief that the storms were actually caused by a separate natural disaster happening a province away in Morrowind. You see, the eruption of the Red Mountain in Vanderfell was a devastating event that impacted all of Morrowind and left numerous cities and towns in dire states. The college mages theorized that the effects of the volcanic eruption carried across the Sea of Ghosts to Winterhold and caused the storms that devastated the city. Interestingly enough, the volcanic eruption took place 117 years before the Great Collapse. Could this natural disaster really have been the cause, or were the mages truly responsible? To truly understand a city's demise, we must also know how it came to be, and that story takes us back to the First Era. The city itself is said to have been built entirely by the whispered spell of a powerful mage. Shalidor, who would become the first Archmage of Winterhold, is rumored to have been so mighty that he constructed the entire city through a single spell. This could also be merely a legend to exaggerate his abilities, but there is no evidence to disprove the legend. Now, while Winterhold managed to stay afloat financially, The city ran rampant with war and rebellion over the First and Second Era, while their king was murdered and conscription was forced upon them. It was during the Third Era in which Winterhold truly prospered. This period in time was called the Golden Age for Winterhold, in which political forces were strong and the college mages were seen as an asset, rather than a hindrance to the state of the city. It was also during this era in which Winterhold guards started to wield axes 6 feet in length. This tradition was carried forward, as you will notice walking around the city. None of the guards actually use shields, and most prefer great axes or hammers. It was also during the Third Era that the location of the Labyrinthian was revealed. This ruin was actually built by the same guy who made the city, the Archmage Shalidor, nearly 4,000 years ago. But now, this guy has already been mentioned a couple of times. You see, his statue is the one that stands proudly outside of the College of Winterhold, and as previously mentioned, this mage was responsible for both the construction of Winterhold and the Labyrinthian. Now, the Labyrinthian is actually very important to the college. As you see, there's a part in the Labyrinthian that's called Shalidor's Maze. Now, this labyrinth was supposed to test the skill and intellect of new mages in the school. There is technology seen in the maze which is foreign to the rest of Skyrim, showing the magnitude of Shalidor's resourcefulness and intelligence. The maze itself is still intact if one wishes to risk their lives, since the maze is filled with dangerous creatures and traps. Now, the maze is supposed to hold a fabled artifact, Glamouril. When translated from Elvish, it means the secret of life. Now, this Glamouril is still sought after by the mages, and we know very little of its existence, or even if it's there at all. As stories go, this artifact is said to have been stolen from Akatosh himself, but those are just stories, right? And so, we have talked about the once great city and the legendary Archmage who founded it, but we have yet to look at the pinnacle of interest in Winterhold. The college. The College of Winterhold is looked to as a shining achievement in the eyes of all mages, and a blight on Skyrim to most magic-fearing Nords. Its history is rich with scholarly greatness, magical prowess, and the discovery of many ancient secrets. Being an entirely separate institution from that of the Mages Guild in the rest of Tamriel, the college allows their students magical freedom, turning a blind eye to even some of the more frowned upon magic, like necromancy. The college remained a true neutral party after the Mages Guild inevitable fallout after the Oblivion Crisis, and only showed any signs of brutality when a war was waged between the college and the Thalmor. This war sacrificed many books and scrolls which held irreplaceable knowledge, and since then, the Mages College has been dedicated to protecting their resources for future mages to take advantage of. While on the outside, the college seems to be a normal, if not lavish-looking school of magic, we learn rather quickly that something strange is hidden within the midden of the college. The Augur of Dunlane, a previously promising Breton mage, now an entity of shining blue light. According to the Augur, his thirst for magical power brought him to a terrible accident, in which he transformed into a being we see before us. The fact that this entity still remains at the college is very strange, and there's no explanation as to why there has been no effort to help him. I mean, he's just simply there, and shows no signs of ever even trying to reverse the effects of the accident. What's even more peculiar is that none of the other mages seem to particularly care about it either. It's very creepy indeed. There is literally nothing about him, he's just there. No info, nothing, and probably will always be there. He's categorized as a divine artifact, not really a living being anymore. Probably just energy with a consciousness. What's curious though is that you can't skip his dialogue either. That's a feature only seen with Daedric lords in the game. And what's cool though is that he's probably immortal, so we will most definitely see more of him in the future, or in the past.